Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Optimizing Speed, Scale, and Quality with WellSaid's API. So we are so excited to have everybody here with us today, and my name is Kimaya Sharp. I am a part of our marketing team here at WellSaid, focusing specifically on customer marketing, and I will be moderating today's webinar. So I'd love for everyone to first take the opportunity to comment in the chat and let us know where you're from, maybe what you do within your line of work, so that we can see who's here with us today. And while you all are doing that, let's just take a little bit of time to actually learn what today's webinar is about. So here at WellSaid, we're pretty passionate about being able to push the boundaries of AI voice technology and helping teams pretty much like yours create high quality, natural sounding voiceovers with ease. So today's webinar is all about showing exactly how developers specifically and product teams are using the WellSaid API to really build scalable, reliable voice workflows from first call all the way through to production. So feel free, again, to drop any questions that you have in our Q&A section directly, or much like you're doing right now by letting us know where you're from in the chat at any time throughout this webinar. And if for some reason your questions are not answered within this particular time frame, we will be sure to include a response in our recap email that we provide at the end of this with detailed information. Now, I am really excited to be able to introduce who is joining me on this webinar today. It's our Senior Product Manager, Nate Grieve. How are you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Kimaya.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you work pretty closely with our product and engineering teams, and you have a pretty solid understanding of how customers are integrating our API tools into their workflows. And I know that you've been the center of many successful deployments. So today, I believe you're going to walk us through some of the most effective ways that teams are really using API to show, I guess, what's developing for WellSaid and getting first tests all the way through to production. So if you'd like to give us a little bit more about your role here and kind of how you're going to deep dive or what you're going to deep dive into today, feel free to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work very closely with our API. We've taken it from an API that really just did text-to-speech to a full suite of tools that allow you to completely control how the delivery of the text-to-speech comes from the models. So we have a lot more ability to add, really fine-grained control to the way that the end text-to-speech is delivered. So if you wanted to speed it up, slow it down, change the pronunciation of something, or even add some pauses between multiple clips, or as I'll show you in the demo, we can introduce multiple voices, so it's like they're having a conversation. So this is all now possible with the API. Obviously, we've rolled this out to many customers, but yeah, I did want to kind of dive into some of the best practices with the API, and then go into a demo showing off how a lot of this works.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to see what you're going to show us today, and I'm pretty sure the audience is too. But before we dive into all that our API entails, we do have an audience poll question. So that question is, what problem are you trying to solve using WellSaid API? So what is that specific problem? You should see that prompt show up now for you within the polls. Just answer that question for us so we kind of have a better understanding of who's in the audience today and what it is that we can really tap into to solve for you. So let's first just address some important industry context and best practices for using WellSaid API. So Nate, would you agree that we're seeing a lot of momentum in certain industries like education? I know contact centers, even with advertising or internal enterprise tools, many of these teams are kind of embedding high quality voice content directly into their applications without needing, I guess, to build out a full team in-house. This is a major shift, I would think, as businesses recognize the value of how WellSaid is kind of scaling things effectively. So I think for me, when I first started here at WellSaid, to be honest, I did not know much at all about API, but being able to get into the sandbox, understand things like calls, time to first byte, it just really helped me to see just how much value there is within our integration and can add to projects and just really kind of see how flexible it is. So I think with that, whether you're building internal tools full scale customer experiences. We're really kind of seeing teams integrate voice in really creative and efficient ways. So I guess with that statement, it might be great to kind of phrase it this way for you, Nate. Like, what makes the WellSaid API especially useful for many of our customers compared to some legacy tools?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, let's talk about some of the differentiators. So obviously, one of the biggest differentiators for using any AI product, but especially the WellSaid text-to-speech, is the speed at which you can get the final product that you're looking for. So traditionally, you may hire a voice actor. You need to coordinate time with them and already have the script ready and everything. So there's less time for iteration as you are on the clock with that voice actor the entire time. With AI, text-to-speech, obviously, you don't have that voice actor that you're working with. And so if you wanted to make a change or if the contract ran out or something like that, you'd be able to re-record, get new takes, and do so all in a fraction of a second. So that is definitely one aspect that we're seeing a lot of, especially with a lot of our traditional learning and development customers, or any of the other people that we have worked with in the past. We're seeing a lot of speed improvements there as well. Another big differentiator, less so with the traditional voice actors, but with some of our competition in the automated space, is with privacy. So our model is closed. So you can be assured that we're never going to train on any of the information or the data that you put into our system. So if you, we work with a lot of large banks or other medical type use cases where privacy is very important. We will never train on your model. And as we look to introduce new tools like LLMs and stuff in the future, those will all be closed as well. So we will always be 100% closed, never train on any of your information, so you can feel confident and comfortable with what you put into the system. And then also on the way out, when you get your final product, the MP3 or the file that you then want to use, you have full rights to that. So again, if you're working with a traditional voice actor, maybe that contract comes up. We've seen this. I was on a call just this past week where they were having to re-record all of their learning material because the person that they had worked with originally to record all the audio had left, and they no longer had access to that person's content. And so they needed to re-record it. So both going into the system and leaving our system, you have complete control and privacy. I would say the last thing is definitely the flexibility. So again, working with our model, you'll be able to adjust pitch, speed, and combine the clips in any way, use as many voice actors as you would like. So you really have a lot of flexibility to test out different things. Maybe you want a different sound slide to slide, or maybe if you're using an advertisement, you need a little bit more emphasis on one word or another. You're able to do that with our system.
Yeah, I think it's really important to call out that safety, that security that you're going to get within our API integration. And I think also with that, you brought up just kind of the different use cases that we have. So where are you seeing the most momentum or interest from teams that are using our API right now?
Yeah, definitely still a lot in the learning and development space, but the biggest one I'm noticing recently is definitely in advertising. So people who are looking to get a dynamic voice content at scale. So imagine if you have, let's say, for example, you wanted to record one audio ad, but have it for many different regions for your chain or something like that. And so you wanted to not have to go back and re-record the different location names, or if there's a different sale at different branches or something like that, you could do that all programmatically using our API and get all of those takes with essentially one request to us. So definitely a lot more flexibility and the ability to add those, emphasis on certain words, or get retakes with different sounds that fit the campaign that you're going for. This will definitely resonate better with your target audience. Another space we've been doing a lot more with is the IVR space. So any sort of real-time telephony use case where you're making a phone call and you want that automated message to have a natural sounding voice. This can be both for external, like a customer support type thing, or internal. So if you have a tool where you're trying to train your sales reps or something like that, and you need to have them practice with, what appears like a live person and get feedback, you can set that all up via our API. So yeah, we're seeing a lot more both in the advertising space because of our control, and then in the real-time use cases because of the speed that our API is able to deliver the text-to-speech.
I love it. So advertising primarily for control, you said. So I guess with advertising, can you walk us through maybe a real example of how a team is using API in this particular arena?
Yeah, absolutely. And I touched on it briefly, but to dive more into that, you can imagine, let's say, a Subway or something like that, for example. They have thousands and thousands of locations, some of which may be making use of the most recent sale, and some of them may not be, depending on the location and the franchise owner. And so if you wanted to provide audio generated advertisements for a wide or a large company like that with many, many locations, you would have to re-record all the location names and the differences in the sales prices hundreds and hundreds of times in order to make sure that they are regional and targeted to the customers that you're going after. Whereas with us, you could send one request. You could use our asynchronous bulk API and just change that one location name hundreds of times and then keep the rest the same. And with one click, you're able to get all of those recorded, listen to them, make adjustments to the ones that you may or may not like. But again, that is the combination of dynamic and static content that we are looking to work with. And we do have customers doing that today. So definitely when you have a lot of differences, it's much easier to do that all at once than it is to do it by recording them one-offs over and over and over again.
No, I definitely understand. I used to work in advertising, a direct response, and we had often where I would be called in to do what you were speaking about, having to do those different calls for different locations. So WellSaid would have been very nice to have around during that time. Now, let's talk about the agent training and the internal tools that you talked about earlier as well. Do we tend to see a lot of these? I know you said they're showing up more, but like how often are they showing up? Have you seen teams using this API to kind of personalize or adopt content per user or per role?
Yes, absolutely. I would say still one of our biggest use cases is for training. And one of the reasons why we keep getting return customers and customers coming back is the level of control that they've gotten accustomed to. So for example, you work at a large company, you probably have a lot of internal terms and acronyms that are said in a very specific way. And you want those always said the same way. And the ability to build out a library. So we have replacement libraries with the API. So you can store the way that your company says the acronym and store it once. And every time that is then seen, we will automatically make sure that it is said the right way. So, some people say ASAP, some people say ASAP. And depending on what you want for your training, you will want that to be correct the same way so that the people who are getting trained when they're finished with the training don't sound like they don't know what they're talking about. So you need to make sure everyone's on the same page, and our API's ability to kind of streamline the pipeline and to quickly get this content out with great accuracy and great speed is why we see customers continuing to come back and make use of the product.
Yeah, definitely can understand that. And I'm thinking even along the lines of e-learning, because if you think about it, I mean, this training is pretty much kind of along the lines of e-learning. But when it comes to that use case specifically, voice volume, I think can kind of scale pretty quickly. So how are we seeing teams kind of prepare for that from an architectural standpoint?
Yeah. So if, let's say you have a new course that comes out and it could have hundreds and hundreds of hours of audio that needs to be associated to it. Again, and this is where the scalability of an API solution for these types of use cases is so valuable. So again, I've also touched on the contract aspect. So again, I'm only bringing this up because it's such a recent thing, but we had someone that had to re-record all of their e-learning, an entire curriculum because the contract ended with one of their voice actors. So again, this is another reason for scale and for cost to work with a text-to-speech provider as opposed to a real person in order to make sure that you're still getting the same high-quality audio, you're still getting the same accuracy, but you're able to do so at scale and do so all at once. So the course comes out, it's a large curriculum, it has lots and lots and lots of audio that needs to be recorded. You could get that all done that day and start getting into piecing it all together. Because obviously it's not the last step just to get the audio. You then need to integrate it into your system. And we also have tools for that as well. So if you wanted to break it out by sentence or paragraph and make sure that it's all lined up with the correct number of MP3s, we can help with that as well, so that when you finally get it into the system where you're doing the final editing, you have the right resource at the right length for the for that final product to be edited together. So yeah, definitely I would say it's a scale thing, and e-learning, the accuracy is important, but the scale is going to be definitely number one.
That's scale, yes, for sure, definitely number one. All right, so I think that you have given us quite a bit contextually. Like we've gone through a lot in a short amount of time. So maybe we can actually take a look at our API in action now. Are you good with that, for us to kind of shift from theory into reality? We've heard some examples, but to see it in real time.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a new demo I want to show off today. So one of the things that we've been working on in my neck of the woods is a MCP server. So for those of you who are familiar with LLMs, the MCP server MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's a relatively new technology that allows you to integrate your tools. So for us, our set of tools is the WellSaid API directly into the client that you're using with your LLM. So for my demo today, I'll be using Claude Desktop, but essentially what this MCP server allows me to do is, with a single prompt, I could say, make me an advertisement, get 3 voice actors, put it all together and let me listen to it, or write me a podcast or make this article narrated. And you don't have to go back and forth and do all these different things. You can just use it as you would a normal LLM and get access to that. So some of the things that I can highlight during this is the asynchronous use case. So if you had a bulk request, as we've talked about before, like maybe an entire curriculum comes out, you can use that with this LLM, obviously. You can combine clips and add pauses. So if I have 2 people talking and we need to either have them interrupt each other or have a pause for effect, you can do that as well. And then the AI director, as we're calling it, is also the ability to control that. So if I wanted to speed up one sentence or speed up an entire thing to make it sound more exciting, I can just say, hey, can you make this speed it up for the purpose of delivery? And it will add the cues, wrap the text on my behalf. And then lastly, the pronunciation aspect. So if in this example, I'm going to tell it to make up a new company name. And if I don't like the way that this made up name sounds, obviously similar to the acronyms or an internal term, I could say, hey, can you please make a respelling for this? And it will do a phonetic respelling, apply it, and then send it again. So all of this can be done using the LLM, which I think is very cool. But also this is going to showcase multiple aspects of our API in real time. So let me share my screen here and start generating some audio. All right, so here is Claude, and you can see I already have the first prompt put in here. So this says, I need a Spotify audio advertisement for a new water bottle brand that is sport specific. Can you please generate 3 different clips with 3 different voices so that I can compare what I like best? So as opposed to hiring 3 different voice actors, I can just hit enter here and it will figure the rest out. So let's do that and see what we get. All right, so first it's got to get the avatar criteria. So this is like the different characteristics: confident, bright, casual. And from that information, it will start to make its next decision. Now we're going to find the avatars that it actually wants to use. So get a list of avatars. And now again for the female option. So we're going with Wade C, one of my favorites, for the high energy and motivational approach. We're then going for professional athlete endorsement style with Nicole. And then Tobin is cool, trendy approach. Interesting. So yeah, let's see what comes out the other end. Here is what we got. So we have the first one already. Let's listen.
You're pushing your limits. Every drop counts. HydroPeak, the water bottle engineered for champions. With our revolutionary installation technology, your water stays ice cold for 24 hours.
Sounds pretty good. All right, we like the first one. I think that would be Wade. Now let's listen to the second one, the professional athlete approach.
As a professional athlete, I demand the best from my equipment. That's why I choose AquaFlow Sport. Its ergonomic grip never slips. The leak-proof design.
All right, the AquaFlow. Okay, we like that one as well. That sounded better. I think that number 2 was better than number 1. And then our final one.
Game day, training day, recovery day, whatever your day brings, WellSaid keeps you in the zone. Smart temperature display, one-handed operation, and a sleek design that looks as good.
All right, I think we can stick with number 2. So WellSaid, not as good as AquaFlow. They did get the name wrong though. So let's do one more prompt. We're gonna go with AquaFlow. Can you make a respelling, or how about I like version number 2. Can you make a respelling for AquaFlow so it gets the name right? And can you add some more emphasis and speed to the delivery to make it sound exciting? So what I would hope it does, and we will see what it does, is that it should first make a respelling for AquaFlow. And it looks like it's already doing that. Let's see how that looks. AquaFlow, great. So it should get that right now. And then we wanted to adjust the tempo. So we wanted to speed it up a little bit. So that's the AI director in action. So let's see how it does. We already have the new clip, so let's take a listen.
As a professional athlete, I demand the best from my equipment. That's why I choose AquaFlow Sport. Its ergonomic grip never slips.
Nice. Okay, so could probably keep working on that respelling, but you can see it applied tempo values 1.2, tempo value 1.3. So it's adding emphasis to different parts of it, speeding it up, slowing it down, depending on where you get it. And then it has the respell value, AquaFlow, in there as well. So again, all I did was a couple of prompts in order to get some changes made. It's applying all of the markup for me on my behalf, so I don't have to sit there and doing it myself. Obviously, if you're a developer, you can do this programmatically in many ways, but this is just a very quick way to do it. And yeah, and just like that, I have an ad picked out and working. What else could we do with this? Let's say, that's great. Can you now do this in French, please? So let's say I wanted to do it in French. What I would expect it to do is go find a French voice, right? We do have French voices that we offer. So yeah, first it's got to do French voice, hopefully. Now it's getting French voice. Okay, it's got a French voice for us. It's adjusting the tempo. Again, we still want it to be fast and crisp, so it's adjusting the tempo. And now it's making the ad. So let's see. Yeah, so we got, it's definitely in French now. And let's take a listen. I do not speak French, so I can't confirm, but.
En tant qu'athlète professionnel, j'exige le meilleur de mon équipement. C'est pourquoi je choisis AquaFlow Sport.
AquaFlow Sport. I think it sounds better in French. So yeah, all with just a couple of clicks and a couple of prompts, I was able to get an ad in multiple languages, an ad that is said in the way that I would like it to. And that was all done using our new MCP server. So this is to be released here in the coming weeks. It'll be publicly available, so you'll be able to download and interact with this yourselves. But yeah, I think this does a great job showing off all the different things that our API can do, how quickly it can work, and it's just a kind of a fun use case that we're able to show off the full suite of tools that our API offers today.
I swear, I think you have the coolest job here. Each time I think I learned something new from you. So thank you so much for showcasing that. That was awesome. And even thinking back on previous sessions that I've been able to have with you, just understanding our API more and more. So thank you so much for that. And I think it's just one thing to kind of talk about API in theory, but it's another thing to see just how fast and flexible it really is when you really put it in practice. So awesome. Now, there was a question that did come in during your demo there. And with that, the question was, what kind of architectural choices help teams go from prototype to production more smoothly? Like, is that a question we could probably touch on now? Or is that going to take a little more context for us to kind of dive into?
No, I mean, that's definitely a question I face almost on every call, especially in the early stages. So I would say one of the biggest ones is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the real-time versus asynchronous requirements needed. So if you have a SaaS product that needs text-to-speech fast, you're going to end up using our stream endpoint, which can not only get you your audio quickly, but it can do so streaming. So it can start playing before it's even finished processing through our model. So if you had a long article and you wanted someone to hit play and for it to start reading, that would be the stream endpoint. Now, if you are doing more like a full curriculum of course content, then we would point you in the direction of our asynchronous endpoint. That gives you the ability to, with one request, you could send hundreds of clips over to us. We'll generate them all using a queue. And then as soon as they're ready, we will give you the ID and you'll be able to pull that information down. So if you needed to do an entire curriculum, an entire book, and you wanted to split it out by chapters or paragraphs or whatever you wanted to do, you'd be able to use the asynchronous. So yeah, definitely different options for depending on the use case. But yeah, we do like to point people towards the asynchronous one if they don't need it to be real time. But for things like the IVR use case, yeah, you're going to want to stream it. You're going to want to get it as soon as you have access to that audio. You're going to want to start playing it. So we can handle both, but definitely a decision that needs to be made upfront and planned with when you're designing the architecture of whatever the integration you're looking to do with WellSaid.
Love it. You make it sound so seamless. So thank you. Thank you for answering that question. All of the other questions that we were able to answer should have been answered directly within the chat. But as I stated, if for some reason your question was not resolved during today's webinar, we will make sure that it is recapped in our email that will be sent out to you shortly after this webinar concludes. All right. So Nate, is there anything else that we'd like to leave our audience with today before we wrap up?
No, and if you have any questions or want to make use of our MCP server, please do reach out. Obviously, we're trying to get this in the hands of as many people as possible. And if you have any requests for new API endpoints, those all come to me, and I would love to hear from you. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or if you would like to see anything new coming from our API offering.
Yes, so definitely take him up on that. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that this gave you a clear look at how developers and product teams are just using WellSaid's API to really build fast, scalable voice solutions. If you have not already had an opportunity to use it and you're looking for the chance to try it yourself, head over to wellsaid.io/API. So that will be dropped into the chat so you can get started. And you will find everything that you need to start building right away. Nate already told you that you can reach out to him directly. And also, there is something that I think we do need to mention. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about it. You don't have to say too much, but our API partner program, would you like to kind of dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we have very recently started our API partner program. So if you are interested in using our API, if you have an interesting or new use case, we do have an API partner program page that we can link here for sign up. But essentially, it's going to give you a lot of free text to speech, essentially, and an opportunity to work with me and the rest of my team in order to help design the roadmap as we move forward. We're looking for, we have a number of people that have already applied, but we're looking for definitely to partner with more people, especially those with interesting use cases or new and interesting ways to use the API. So again, there'll be a link that you can find, but please do sign up if you're interested. It gets you access to more time with the product team in order to, direct where the product is going, but also gives you some free API requests. So definitely look into that if it sounds like you'd be a good fit. We're looking to expand that program now. So yeah, thanks again for bringing that up.
Awesome. Yes, yes. So everyone, again, questions, need to walk through specific use cases. Our team is always here to help. So even if you can't get up with our product team directly or immediately, you can always reach out through our support chat, which is on our site. Or you can reach out to your customer success manager or your account manager for any additional questions that you might have as well. So that will conclude our webinar today. Like I said, I feel like I learned something new from you every single time, Nate. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your brain, being able to kind of be able to process and go through all of this with us today. And thank you all for joining us on today's webinar. We cannot wait to see what else you create. And until next time, be well.